Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our family service. Thanks to those of you who came last night for movie night. I think everyone had a good time, and I wanted to thank the people who made the arrangements, like Joy, who set up everything so that we could actually watch the movie. And there was popcorn and there was pizza. I think it was, and lots of other extra goodies that people brought, like Jello brains. And apple mouths with marshmallow teeth. So it was really a good time. The ringing of the kansho will be starting soon, and it signifies the start of the service. So please sit quietly.
Please rise for the meditation, followed by the chanting of the Vandana Ti-Sarana by the congregation in Pali and English, found on page 165 of the Brown Praises of the Buddha book.
Please be seated. Please turn to the Sutra Junirai on page 59 in the red Jodo Shinshu service book.
Shobushi, Ken
Please rise and turn to page 126 in the same book for the recitation Golden Chain of Love. I am a link.
And I be the Buddha's holy chain of love that stretches around the world. I must keep my link bright and strong. I will try to be kind and gentle to every living thing and protect all who are weaker than myself. I try to take pure and beautiful thoughts, to say pure and beautiful words, and to do pure and beautiful things, knowing that what I do not depends not only on my happiness or unhappiness, but also that of others. May every link in Amita's golden chain of love be bright and strong, and may we all attain perfect peace. Namo Amitabha.
Please continue standing for the Gatha gentle hands that is on the sheet that was given to you at the greeter's desk. We're going to sing it twice because it's short.
Seated. Our Dharma talk today will be given by Reverend Dr. Bert Sumikawa, someone new and different.
Morning, everyone. Do I have to reintroduce myself? Because I haven't been here for 2 weeks or so, maybe even longer. The last week I was quite busy doing something else. Anyway, I'm happy to be here this morning, and it's really nice to see all of you here with some new faces as well. We're always welcome new people here at our temple. It seems like a long time, as I said, that I shared a Dharma message with you. And I heard that some of you may be wondering if I ever did any Dharma messages besides doing the chanting also. Yeah, well, you know, I have shared a whole bunch of messages with you over the years. Those of you that came here last night were treated to quite a fun-filled evening. You know, I wasn't expecting that big a crowd, but you know, I was so happy to see so many of you enjoying the movie, Casper the Friendly Ghost. But also enjoyed the popcorn and chicken as well, and the pizza, and the other desserts, things like that. But you know, I was supposed to go to the UH football game, but I did not go and opted to come here. Maybe I guess as well because they won, right? If I won, they probably would have lost. So, you know, but as I mentioned many times before, in the past. A Buddhist temple or Buddhism is not really Buddhism unless you have three things. You know what they are? Those of you that took all my classes in the past, those of you that have been coming here for 30 or 40 years, know what they are. The three treasures. We chant them every Sunday, and we just did so this morning, both in Pali and in English, right? Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami. So the third line, Sangham saranam gacchami, reminds that we're all interdependent with one another, and we can exhibit this in many, many ways. And one of them is to join in the activities of the temple. Another example of this is a monthly bingo games that we have here. Isn't that gambling? No? And the first Sunday activities that we have here. So going back to the three treasures, if you don't have the Buddha, there is no Buddhism. If you have the Buddha but no Dharma, it's not Buddhism. If you don't have, it's not Buddhism if you don't have the Sangha either. There is no Buddhism, you see? Some people may think that they just come just as the service starts and leaves right afterwards without talking to anyone that they're practicing Buddhism. But that's not true. We need all three. So anyway, let's put our hands together in reverence as I read these words. We speak of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha as though there are three different things, but they are really only one. Buddha is manifested in his Dharma and is realized by the Sangha. Therefore, to believe in the Dharma and to cherish the Sangha is to have faith in the Buddha. And to have faith in the Buddha means to believe in the Dharma and to cherish the Sangha. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida. Well, as I mentioned, most of you have been coming to the temple for quite some time now, and maybe you've seen offerings on the altar. Can you see the rice on the altar this morning? There's 4 of them. From time to time, on special occasions such as the 6 major services and such, we have offerings of fruits, soba noodles during obong season, mochi on New Year's, and other foods that are placed there. Have you wondered why it was placed there, or have you ever wondered if the Buddha will actually eat the food? You see, for Amida Buddha, we have 2 large ones. You know why? Because he gets very hungry, trying to protect all of us. The 2 smaller ones, one for Shinran and one for Renya on the other side, is small. They got to take care of the A1C. You're not recording this, are you? So, when I was a young boy, I used to sit at my grandmother's altar. And then she used to place rice on the altar. And I would ask her why she did that. And she always said that, it was for the Mamang Sang. You ever heard of that word, that term, Mamang Sang? Well, it's a children's way of referring to Amida Buddha, right? And I don't know where it originated. Some of these words are hard to find the origins and how they developed into other meanings. Like for example, Hotoke. I'm sure you've heard that word Hotoke, right? Hotoke-sama. It means they're referring to Amida Buddha. But did you know that it began as a derogatory word in Japan way back in the 6th century when the Korean prince brought a Buddhist statue to Japan, and he told them, you should worship the Buddha because he's going to protect you. And the other people who didn't believe, they were all Shinto, right? They said, oh no, that's Hotorike, that's a derogatory word, meaning sick with fever, or something like that, that they refer to Buddhism at that time. So I asked my grandmother, is he going to eat it? And her reply was, yeah, he's going to eat it. But then later on the day, I watched her take it down. And she ate it. I said, well, he ate it, but only thing is that you didn't see it. I said, okay. So I accepted that as the truth. Some people even put food on the grave. Have you seen that? When I was small, our family used to go to the grave in Kahuku, where my grandfather is buried, and then she used to place cookies and stuff like that. Who's going to eat that, right? During Qingming, I often see people putting whole pig on the grave and bottle of Chivas Regal. I was wondering, wow, who would eventually eat and drink there? But they took it home afterwards to enjoy it. Right? Speaking of that, I was pretty dumb, right, as a kid. Still am dumb right now, but maybe not as bad as I was then. But my father would listen to the radio during the war at lunchtime, and then he always scolded us if we were talking. He'd say, be quiet, news is coming on. Because you wanted to listen to it during the war years, and then it wasn't the kind of radio that we have nowadays. It was the kind with all kinds of tubes in the back that you can peek through and whatnot. And I was wondering, how did that thing work? Was there a small guy in that tube or what? I thought that by magic this man could fly from wherever he was and fly into the tube and imagine all kinds of things. Well, anyway, there's a story by Thich Nhat Hanh, a well-known Vietnamese priest, that is called The Buddha and the Banana. Buddha and the Banana. It tells the story of a monk by the name of Hugh, who was Thich Nhat Hanh's student at the time. And in the year 1964 or so, he became the director of School of Youth for Social Services in Vietnam. I'm just talking about Thich Nhat Hanh. And he trained a lot of young people, monks and young nuns as well, to go out to the countryside and help the people to rebuild these villages that had been bombed by airplanes. But when Hugh was a young boy, about 6 or 7, he asked his father and mother to let him go to the temple to become a monk. And so this is the story of that young boy by the name of, I say Hugh, but actually it's Who. But if I said Who, then you guys go to who, what? So I call him Hugh. He used to go to the Buddhist temple every other night, on the first new day of the month, on the 15th day of the month, actually, the new moon or the full moon days. He went to the temple to offer flowers and bananas and mangoes as well. He noticed that every time he went there, he was treated very nicely. But when he went home or to school and elsewhere, people were not as nice to him as in the temple. Do you know why? Well, because when people go to the temple, they practice smiling, breathing, and they're nicer. Each time he came, the head monk would give him a banana or a mango or a tangerine. And so he loved going to the temple. One day he asked his mom, "Mom, I want to become a monk and live in the temple." It was thought that he wanted to become a Buddhist monk because he liked to eat bananas, and no one could blame him for that. Finally, his parents, his mother and father, let him go to the temple as a novice. And when he was 14, he came to study. He went to study with Thich Nhat Hanh and shared the story. He believed that the Buddha loved bananas and mangoes and tangerines because every time people went there, they brought those things. They brought those bananas and the mangoes and tangerines to offer to the Buddha. So it must mean that the Buddha loved these things very much. So he was interested to see how a Buddha would eat a banana. So one day he waited until all the people went home, and he stood outside the Buddha hall. He peered into the Buddha hall to see how the Buddha would pick a banana up and eat it, because the statue of the Buddha was almost as large as a human being, as an adult human being. He imagined that the Buddha would take a look to make sure that everyone had gone home, and then the Buddha would reach out for the banana. The young boy waited and waited and waited for hours, but he didn't see the Buddha picking up the banana. He could not understand why the Buddha didn't eat it. But the people kept bringing these things to the temple. The young boy, though, did not ask the head monk. He didn't dare ask the head monk because he was afraid that the monk would say that he was crazy or silly or something like that. Right? Actually, many young people feel like that, right? You remember when you were young? We have something in us that we don't want to, something that we want to say, or we don't say it in school, or the teacher asks, because, at the risk of thinking that we're being silly, or, never mind, I won't say that. I'll say it anyway. You don't want to make A, right? I know that when I was in elementary school, whenever the teacher would ask for a discussion or whatever she was teaching, I would hesitate to raise my hand and risk making A, as they say. I don't know, you don't feel like that anymore, right? Nowadays, the young people, they just raise their hand, I think this way, I think that way, So, which is good. I really hated to give book reports. That was something that I dreaded for weeks, actually, to go up in front of the class and give a book report. In fact, one day I went to the teacher and I said to her, I don't want to give a book report. Can I be excused? She said, why? Because I stutter. Never mind if you stutter, just go ahead and do it anyway. Oh my goodness. Anyway, one day this guy, he got enlightened and he realized a very important thing. That the Buddha statue is not the Buddha. Oh, what an achievement. He was so glad. And then he said, if the Buddha is not in the Buddha hall, where should we find him or her? That question made him suffer a lot because everyone came to the temple and bowed to the statue of the Buddha. And now he had found out that the Buddha statue is not the Buddha. So when he first met Thich Nhat Hanh at the age of 14, he was told that the Buddha is here in the heart. That the Buddha is our capacity of loving, our capacity of understanding. And he was taught that a physician is a physician because he has a different kind of knowledge, right, from other people. And that's something is the capacity to understand, diseases and to help people. So without that kind of knowledge and capacity, then you cannot be called physician, right? A Buddha is different from other people because he or she has the capacity of awakening, loving, and understanding. See? Anywhere you see understanding and loving, you see the Buddha. And as you practice, you see that in yourself. There is a capacity of this loving, of this understanding. You know that the Buddha is within yourself. Therefore, when we bow, the Buddha begins to become real in you. Looking for the Buddha, we have to look into ourselves. I think that's a good story, don't you? In our Shin Buddhist tradition, it may be said that Amida Buddha is perfectly identical to myself. Amida becomes me. That is the reason why in the Sutra, Gassho to Amida, we changed it over here, right? And we chant Gassho with Amida. Gassho with Amida, not Gassho to Amida. So the main principle here in this process of salvation is the unity of the seeker, which is you, and the Dharma, or the unity of the Buddha mind and the ordinary mind. Here we revere the compassion of Amida that embodies timeless truth. At the same time, awakening to the harsh truth of the karmic evil in our lives. And we see ourselves taking refuge in Amida. The call for help, or the Nembutsu, of those seeking to be saved is at the very same moment the Savior's answer to the call. It is Amida's urging us to trust in me, occurring at the very same time, the very same moment as the seeker's act of entrusting in Amida. So as long as we live in this world, the actual sufferings of life do not cease to press upon us, even after we are awakened to Amida's compassion. But we do not know now how we desperately grope for liberation we don't grope for this liberation from suffering, because we're always with Amida's name, that is, with the Nembutsu, wherever we may be, wherever we may go. We never call Amida's name without returning at the same time to the restfulness, the serenity of being saved by Amida's compassion. This return to the original experience of the awakening of faith refreshes us and enables us to brace ourselves for natural but courageous living. So we are thus, through Nembutsu, enabled to pass the impassable. This is what salvation means in the Pure Land doctrine. This life of the Nembutsu is designated as the way that leads straight to the Pure Land. It was the founder of the Hongwanji, Shinran, who taught that Amida Buddha loves all of us, that eventually we will all become Buddhas. That is why it is important to come to the temple and to listen to the Buddha's teachings. Again, to see the Buddha, we have to see it in ourselves. By helping each other, not teasing one another, not taking anything for granted, not looking down on someone because they look or talk different, or because they came from another country, we become better people. And we can see the Buddha within ourselves. Well, thank you all for listening, and especially for coming here this morning to share the Dharma with one another. This is the true Sangha. Let's put our hands together once again. My eyes being hindered by blind passions, I cannot perceive the light that grasps me. Yet the great compassion without tiring illumines me always. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida.
Thank you, Reverend Bert. Please rise for the Gatha at our altar on page 16 of the Brown Praises of the Buddha book, and continue to stand for the Nembutsu found on page 107 of the same book.
myself to be happy. Whatever joy there is in this world, it all arises from desiring to share my happiness with everyone. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.
Please be seated. I believe we will have announcements today from Prudence. There she is.
Good morning. So nice to see everybody. I said, oh, it's getting crowded, but all in the back. So we gotta get everybody coming. Let's see. Today we have some new faces, some old faces that haven't been here for a while. Welcome back. We have a guest today, Galen, and she is Chip's wife, and she's sitting back there with Chip. Welcome, Galen. Oh, hey, Susan. See, I said I see new faces. Well, old faces back again. Thanks for today's volunteers. It takes volunteers to make our Sunday services work. Thanks for being MC, Lisa and Emma. And Dennis, who's sitting in as our greeter. Joy for playing the piano. And Merle and Team C, I hear them in the kitchen already, getting ready for our refreshments. And Ryan always for recording. And of course, Reverend, we can almost count the Sundays, yeah, that you're going to...
Can I hear you?
I said we can count the Sundays when you're going to be speaking to us on one hand almost. As you know, Reverend Brennan will be starting with us in November, and we'll be lucky to have 2 ministers with us for 2 months. And then Reverend Bert will just visit us after that. And like Lisa said, thank you for those of you that helped make last night's movie night a success. I didn't watch the movie, but I just talk story outside and eat. Let's see what's going on. Our fall food drive is starting today, and it ends on November 13. And we do this twice a year in the spring and in the fall. And so this food drive we deliver just in time to the food bank for Thanksgiving. Next week is Remembrance Service, so those of you that have people that passed away in October any year, whether it's humans or pets, you're welcome to honor them next Sunday. Let's see, next week at 1 to 2:30, there is a virtual conference on, and this is posted out there. It's Creating Dharma Moments Together, Ekomomai, and it's sponsored by the Honolulu and Oahu Hongwanji councils. And they have a bunch of young people on the panel, and it's led by Sensei Koichi Mizushima of the Buddhist Church of Sacramento. And Dennis informs us that Sensei Mizushima is actually, he's not a reverend, he's actually a certified minister's lay assistant. So they apparently have a lot of them up there, so he'll be leading it. So service will end and you can rush home and watch this virtually. So that's going to be next Sunday. Let's see. Any announcements? Cynthia? None? No one?
Can I add that
Sure.
Koichi is also the BCA is Buddhist Churches of America. He's also the BCA youth specialist.
Ah. That's why they have these young people that on the panel are people from here, right?
Yeah, I actually think they're all from Hilo, which is kind of funny. But Kieran just graduated from Kamehameha Keao, the Big Island one. And Christina is a former Junirai, but she's an adult and active in Hongwanji.
So they are young people following us. So there is, I don't think Hongwanji would disappear. Maybe not in my lifetime anyway. No other announcements? Okay, then let's turn to words of thanksgiving. It's in your red book on page 126. And we are truly grateful for wonderful food, a gift of life. May we share its benefits with all beings.
As we
Take of this food. Let us remember our
meet
meaning
of Buddha's compassion
which surrounds all forms of
all forms of life. Namo
Namo
Amida Butsu.
Amida Butsu. Itadakimasu. Thank you.